If you look behind me, you'll see silver containers, big ones. Those are burial bins. If you talk to residents in Andrews, a lot of them will say it's ironic that the abandoned automotive factory that they believe is at the heart of the issue of the contamination for their drinking water is now used as a storage place for burial bins.
My name is David E. Smith. I've lived in Andrews approximately 13 years, and I worked at the factory over my shoulder for approximately 19 years.
Like many longtime residents in Andrews,
working at the factory, we all had suspicions what was going on, possibly pollution.
And it's based on the alleged dumping of untreated hazardous waste that Smith says he witnessed.
I've seen a lot of things. There was a lot of dumping that went out the back door.
State officials say the water in Andrews is now safe to drink and use again. But in June, the town says the level of the carcinogen vinyl chloride found in their drinking water was more than 10 times the maximum contaminant level approved by the federal government.
It's the silent enemy because you can't smell it, you can't taste it.
But 13 years ago, Smith thought the tap water didn't taste right.
Bitter, like cough syrup.
So Smith started drinking bottled water to protect himself.
When I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, that was the shocker for me.
2018 was the year that changed his life.
44 sessions of radiation therapy. Difficult. Every day it's looking you right in the face.
Even with good health insurance.
I owe thousands.
But cancer isn't the only battle he's fighting. Smith and several other residents are suing the multi-billion-dollar company they say is behind the carcinogen contamination in Andrews.
You got to think about the people in this town that have children. That's what we're fighting for.
All of these individual suits are asking for Raytheon and United Technologies to clean up the contamination and provide new wells outside of the contamination zone.
One, they own the factory. Number two, it's the moral thing to do. I would like to see them do the right thing, not have to fight like this. But if it's a fight they want, the fight they'll get.
Raytheon has been actively treating the town's drinking water since 1994 as part of a voluntary remediation program. We reached out regarding the allegations of chemical dumping and the allegations made by some residents these chemicals cause their cancer. Raytheon said no one was available for an on-camera interview and said it could not provide a statement due to ongoing litigation. The blue building behind me is the abandoned old automotive factory, and there are homes all around it, but even those who don't live next door say their health has been impacted.
What we have in Andrews is these sewer lines that crisscross and intersect, and the chemicals have actually gotten into the sewers. So you have vapors moving many blocks.
My name is Stephen Cecil. I've lived in Andrews for the past 15 years.
Stephen Cecil never worked at the old automotive factory.
I've had 2 cases of cancer since I moved up here. Kidney cancer, and the other was a prostate cancer.
He just learned about the contamination allegation issues a few years ago.
I had no idea. I probably would never have moved here if I had known.
He first learned about it in a town meeting about the city's lawsuit against United Technologies.
And we're talking about not only about drinking or using, but the vapors coming up out of the ground.
Cecil never drank the town's water.
We use the water to take a shower.
Cecil says he's lucky to have caught both cancers early and is now in remission.
Whether it caused mine or not, it could cause other people the same problems.
A longtime resident I spoke to off camera said they wanted to show me something. We started out here by the abandoned old automotive factory. Drove around to the wells, they're not that far away. And on this short drive, the resident was telling me about all the people that they grew up with, that they had lived with for years, that they say died too soon. People who passed away in their 50s or 60s. This resident called the path from the factory to the wells the path of death.
My name is Rick Saunders, and I've lived in Andrews about 22 years.
In June, the town was forced to rely on bottled drinking water for everything after a public health emergency was declared. Many people are still using bottled water, even though the state says the water is now safe to use again. But Rick Saunders says he has no problem using the town's water to bathe and cook.
I've used the water all these years, and what damage I have, it's already done.
Rick was diagnosed with a blood disorder after moving to Andrews.
Myelodysplastic syndrome.
Saunders is now suing Raytheon because of his diagnosis.
It was the water, and just breathing the vapors that was coming up through the ground all these years.
Saunders says Raytheon installed the system in his basement less than 5 years ago. It has a pipe that leads to the outside of the house.
I wasn't real sure what was going on, but I was happy that if there are vapors coming up through the ground, that they were sealing my basement.
The system was installed before he knew about the alleged severity of the contamination issue in Andrews.
These vapors have been coming up through the ground probably ever since I lived here.
We asked Raytheon how it decides when and why to install these systems. Raytheon said it had no one available for an on-camera interview and it could not provide a statement due to ongoing litigation. Saunders says he can't afford leaving the place he's called home since the 90s. But moving isn't just about finances.
He died from cancer.
Saunders believes the water may have killed his dog, Billy Jack.
He sniffed tap water in the bucket and went over and sniffed bottled water in the bowl and drank the water in the bowl.
Billy Jack is buried next to his canine parents in Saunders' yard.
If I was to get out of this house, the hardest part would be leaving them there.